Well, police in KwaZulu-Natal have reportedly said that they are treating a threat of a planned shutdown on main highways in the province quite seriously. That's according to a report by Times Live tonight. It follows reports of a looming strike on Sunday over the hiring of foreign truck drivers. It's a recurring issue, as you'd well know. For more on this, let's speak tonight with the Road Freight Association's Chief Executive, Gavin Kelly. Gavin, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the program. As I was just saying, the issue of a blockading of the N3 highway in particular, when it relates to the employment of foreign labor in the freight industry, is a recurring one. What are you hearing is planned for Sunday?
Good evening, Tembakile, and to all your listeners. Yeah, we've heard very much the same that you've just been reporting. There's been a number of notices circulated on various bits of social media, as well as a couple of documents that have been circulated around calling for drivers to stay away from work and not to drive over the weekend, specifically on the 26th. And that's really around this issue that we've had for probably 4 years now, if not a little bit longer. Basically, foreign individuals or foreign nationals taking jobs away from South Africans, and the focus here is in the road freight logistics industry and, of course, drivers. So that seems to be what is on the cards for this weekend.
And how nervous are you as a freight association about any possible violence and even the disruption of routes itself, which has far-reaching implications?
Look, we're always very nervous about this, and we're very concerned about our drivers on the road, anybody on the road, but as you know, this is targeted at the drivers, and if there's going to be those drivers who are going to be required to drive for whatever reason, that they get injured, that of course they could even be badly injured and die. We've had those cases over the years, so we're very, very worried about that. Then of course there's the destruction to property, destruction to vehicles and infrastructure. So one of the things that we really, really want the South African Police Service to ensure is that if there are any scenes, that they make sure that violence doesn't escalate, and if any such activities start to happen, that they deal with those people and they keep our citizens and those who are driving the vehicles safe.
There was a military deployment along the N3 last year. Is that still continuing?
There are some areas where there is a military deployment. They will probably be out in force again on the N3, and in those areas where traditionally there have been hotspots, yes.
Has it, do you think, been the main deterrent as far as a recurrence of the blocking of roads, trucks being basically, quote-unquote, hijacked and set alight, as it were?
Look, I think it's brought a lot of stability and a lot of control into a number of areas, but we must understand as well that for the last couple of months and probably the last three months, that there's been a lot more work in terms of this problem. The ATDF and the RFA have sat down and given the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Labour a number of suggestions, proposals to address the core issue, because what has been happening over the last couple of years is really just the symptoms of being addressed. And we believe that if the Minister of Transport and the Minister of Labour take these to heart and implement these, that this will finally bring an end to this situation. But having better security forces out there with a far clearer definition of what is required of them definitely is a deterrent.
Let's talk about the suggestions you've made to the Labour Department and the Transport Department as far as the solution is concerned. What do you think is the route out of this? Because you've got foreign workers in your employ. South Africans are saying, well, they've taken jobs from locals because you're able to pay them less than you would a South African worker.
Well, I think the bottom thing really is, Tembakile, is that first of all, we need to root out all of those who are employing foreign nationals illegally. So those companies and those people who employ such people must be dealt with. And that hasn't been happening. That's been the real root cause as to why it is so widespread and why it is possible. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. And then secondly, there are structures both in the Department of Labour and in Home Affairs that perform inspections. They need to ensure that whatever processes are required, that these are implemented, and that those who do not want to play fairly and legally are then dealt with. Now remember, one of the big reasons why foreigners are employed is because they do not enjoy the basic conditions of employment or those rights that are guaranteed under the Labour Relations Act. So we need to make sure that those people who want to do that, who create this problem, are effectively dealt with. Then we're going to get to where we need to get.
And because, as you rightfully say, these are freight companies that are essentially exploiting even these foreign workers who who are in their employ. Let's talk about this weekend then, when we're hearing that the police in KZN, at least according to a report I was looking at by Times Live, are saying that they're taking these rumours, shall we call them that, quite seriously. Do you trust them to be on top of the situation?
That's really a difficult question. I believe that they have been forewarned, and I know that because we've been in discussions with them, and there's a fair amount of information going around. There are a number of regional activities that are already in place to make sure that there are reaction forces, so that get to the hotspots. I hope that they are better prepared than last time, and in what we've heard and what we've read and what they've said to us, they seem to be ready for this, that they can protect those transporters who actually pay the proper wages, who are decent employers, and they can protect any other citizens who might, through this, be caught up in any sort of violence, which we hope won't happen.
With that in mind, then, will you have all your trucks that were meant to travel along the affected routes travel as per the schedule?
Well, the idea is very, very simple. There are going to be some operators who are going to be very, very worried and will withhold their trucks off the road, and that is their decision. When you need to make a decision as to whether you're going to endanger your employees, your drivers, or any other people, that's very much a subjective, a personal view, so there are going to be some reductions in transport. There are others who are faced with things like penalties and time constraints, and they just cannot do this. They cannot ensure that their vehicles are off the road. And there are some who are going to decide that, listen, you know what, we need to do what we need to do. So that is one of the reasons why we hope that the South African police services are going to do what they do, because there's not everybody is going to pull their vehicles off the road.
Gavin Kelly from the Road Freight Association, thank you for your time.